Hi, I'm Stephanie Breedlove. I'm co-founder of Care.com HomePay and author of All In, How Women Entrepreneurs Can Think Bigger, Build Sustainable Businesses, and Change the World. Thanks for joining the discussion today. We're going to be talking about career navigation, and particularly how to find your best talents, how to develop your best talents, and then a look at whether or not those best talents are suited for entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an entrepreneur by passion, calling, and talent. I know that it's where my best talents live, and I've had the opportunity to develop them to the fullest as an entrepreneur. But when I began my career, I had no idea that this was my calling, and I had to go about the process of diligently navigating my career to let those talents unveil themselves. And that's how it is for most of us. And it takes focus and it takes hard work. It doesn't just happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we get going with the webinar, I'll give you a brief background on myself. I have a finance degree and an MBA. And after graduate school, I went to work for Accenture, which was Andersen Consulting at the time. And I spent 6 valuable years in corporate America. And then I took the leap into entrepreneurship. We often call our company story from the basement to a big deal. And in this journey, we were a self-funded startup. We really had to work to bring our fledgling company to life, and it worked. We grew to enterprise scale. We were leaders in our industry. And a few years ago, the company was acquired by Care.com, and it has doubled in size in just the past few years. A great match for both companies. So now let's turn our attention to the webinar. And let's start by giving you the takeaways from today. I'm going to leave you with tangible and valuable calls to action organized into 3 areas. 1, how to create awareness of your best talents. 2, how to develop your best talents, a necessary step on the journey to potentially becoming an entrepreneur, but incredibly valuable no matter what your calling may be. And 3, identifying entrepreneurship traits and how to know if they are your best talents. The most successful entrepreneurs build their unique talents into the core of all they do to produce the greatest levels of success. It's often the differentiating factor. So let's dive in and talk about learning how to recognize when you're using your best talents as you navigate your career. I believe that entrepreneurs are made, not born. So this is a very important practice for determining if entrepreneurship is right for you. But even more important, it's a valuable practice for just finding your best talents and then steering your career in that direction. When we get to develop our best talents, we give our best. And then everyone and everything around us benefits. So as you pursue your career, how do you do this? As I mentioned, most of us don't know who we are meant to be when we start our career. So it becomes important to have conscious awareness of finding your best talents and then working on them. And this helps us to avoid a career that's filled with average performance, adequate satisfaction, missing the mark. I think that all of us are pretty good at a lot of things, and we're really, really good at a very small number of things. Those things that make us a rock star. And our goal is to find the career in which we're a rock star. And when we do that, we no longer have a job and a career. We have a passion and a calling. And here's how you find this conscious awareness. Become aware of what you are working on when your adrenaline races and your eyes light up. Kristen Wheeler, an expert in career development, has developed the concept of MILU, my eyes light up. This is when you know you are delivering your absolute best and you feel it, and nothing is more fun for you. Do not discount what you are doing when this awareness occurs, when Milu occurs. It is significant and it's valuable and it should be recognized as such. We tend to discount the things that come very easily for us, and this is a mistake. Because this is where our special talents live, no matter how small they may seem, and it will translate into something big. And consciously work to do more of that produces Milu. And trust your gut, not society's definition of cool and trendy work. Prioritize experiencing Milu in your career, and it will lead you to your calling. Here's an example from my journey. During my graduate school years, I really began to develop more of an acute awareness of some of these special talents that I wanted to gravitate towards. And one of them was a real value on thorough and quality communication. And I don't mean just wanting to teach or present. I mean a type of communication that builds on itself, that tells a story, that has strategic value, that has calls to action that can be implemented. A real belief in the power and usefulness of communication. So I started volunteering in my group work to open and close our presentation so I could wrap that value around what we were sharing. And then when I went to work, I volunteered to write proposals, to write procedures, to write summaries of work that my team was working on. And I found that when I was doing this, I had Milu. And this is a small talent. You can't wrap a career around it. But as I navigated my career, I started looking for jobs that had these opportunities and that were valued by the companies that I worked for. And it translated into recognizing lots of other small talents, which by themselves aren't careers, but they start steering you down the career path you're meant to go on. We've talked about how to become aware of your best talents. Now let's talk about how to develop your best talents. Your expertise may end up being in entrepreneurship, or finance, or government, or research, or accounting, or marketing, or sales, or training. There is a best for each of us. And here are 4 practices that you can employ that will always help you to develop your best talents. First, go all in. Go all in all you do. Being all in is simply a 1% shift in mindset. It's the difference between going through the motions and delivering with all you've got. It's about never straddling the fence, not sort of committing or sitting on the sideline and hoping someone else will do the heavy lifting. You know what I'm talking about. We've all had these times, and the results are never what we want. Being all in allows you to embrace the power of doing really hard things, and navigating a career brings some of the hardest things in life. When you're all in, you always find value in everything you do, whether that thing is the right one for you or not. Second, work to be the very best at every position you hold, and you've got to be all in to achieve this one. This doesn't mean that you will always achieve being the very best, but applying this level of effort will bring clarity very efficiently to whether or not you are working in a space with your best talents. Third, know that sometimes the very best way to find the perfect career and learn who you are meant to be is having a career or two that teaches you who you are not. This is not only valuable, but I think it is necessary to gain understanding and appreciation for what you love to do, by gaining understanding of what you don't love to do. And fourth, know that every career position that you may hold builds skill that you will use forever. No job is a waste of time. See the value in every part of the career journey. Every job that I've ever had, I use something from it today, even my high school jobs. And here's a story from my journey that brings proof to these concepts. I mentioned that I went to work for Accenture after graduate school. and it was a very valuable part of my career. Accenture is really a great company and invests a lot in its employees in training and continued cultivation. So if you give, you're going to get a lot in return. And I have to say that I think I was at least 90% all in working to master the responsibilities that had been given to me. But as I began to climb the ladder, I started to realize that I was actually having less passion, not more, and it shouldn't be that way. I was realizing that I like to approach my job from a more broad and holistic point of view than my job responsibilities offered. I like to know what's going on from A to Z with client work to maximize what we're doing for the client. I began to realize that I love being a Jill of all trades, not just a specialist in one area. I began to realize that I approach my work from the top down and like to see every idea that's bubbling up, and sometimes the craziest ones are the best ones, and not just work in a silo. And I really wasn't given the opportunity to use these talents in the career path that I had chosen to that point in my career. And it didn't hurt that I'd spent the first 18 months of my career programming and designing programs, and it turns out that I'm really not very technical. So I think I was learning a valuable lesson of who I am not. Now let's turn our attention to my wheelhouse and talk about entrepreneurial traits and how to know if entrepreneurship is right for you. I believe that entrepreneurs are made, not born, as I said. And that's why I focused the first two sections of this webinar on finding your best talents and developing your best talents, because that's a critical piece of knowing that entrepreneurship is for you. If entrepreneurship is for you, you first have to go to work and spend some time building skills that are very valuable and that you need to bring to the table to become an entrepreneur. Second, you need to be out working in and around business so that you know how business works. And third, I really believe that some of the best entrepreneurs have spent time learning who they are not. You know, entrepreneurship is really way more difficult than it is sexy, and previous experience is a critical element for having the confidence that you need for bringing those best talents to entrepreneurship. So, if entrepreneurship might be in your future, if you think you might find yourself as a member of a founding team, then the list I'm about to share with you, you should keep handy. And I also encourage you to take jobs with entrepreneurial companies. It'll be a great test to see if it's right for you. And here are the top 10 talents of successful entrepreneurs. 1, we are broad, holistic thinkers. We may not have expertise in every area of a business, but we understand that each area must be strong and a critical part of all strategy. We get that you can't just be great at product development and the rest will take care of itself. 2, we bring unique talents in a way that drives and differentiates the business in the marketplace. This is often subtle and not groundbreaking. I mentioned my focus on valuable communication earlier, and sure enough, this has been instrumental in my journey. And I'll share a story on this in a moment. 3, business focus. You make decisions based on anticipated effect on profit. We focus on the financials. 4, confidence. We accurately know ourselves and understand others. 5, creative thinker. We exhibit creativity in taking an existing idea often and turning it into something better. 6, delegator. We recognize we can't do everything ourselves. 7, Jill of all trades. We are prepared to do whatever needs to be done to build a successful venture. And in the early years, that often means being the CEO, the janitor, and everything in between. 8, knowledge seeker. We know that we don't have all the knowledge and skill needed, and are constantly searching for information that is relevant for growing our business. 9, promoter and relationship builder. We are the best spokespeople for our businesses and have high social awareness and an ability to build relationships that are beneficial for the survival and growth of our firms. And 10, risk mitigator, not risk taker. We instinctively know how to manage high-risk situations. So I was learning and feeling that entrepreneurship may be where my best talents live instead of a corporate career. And here's a brief story of what my leap into entrepreneurship looked like and how I pulled upon these talents. My leap wasn't grandiose or sexy. It was small and simple. We developed an MVP, a minimum viable product, which was a scaled down version of a company with basic marketing materials, a simple sales strategy, very simple automation, basic client deliverables, and we launched in 2 states. And I didn't even quit my job. I was moonlighting. I was helping clients in the evenings and the weekends. And then after 2 years, there began to be a glimmer of light that this company could make it on a national level. And in that decision, there was stress, and there was angst, and there was the knowing that there was going to be financial hardship. And I was experiencing Milu. I really was feeling in this stressful moment that this is where my best talents were and I should go. So I did. I quit my corporate job and I leapt into entrepreneurship, into my home basement office. We were self-funded. My husband's salary paid our bills. We depleted our savings. It was stressful. And it was bring ya to your knees work. And I have never been happier in my entire life. I knew this is what I should be doing, and it worked. The business went from being a fledgling company to one that was a thriving small business. And after a few years, my husband joined as the second full-time co-founder, and we just took off from there. We went from a small business of $1 million in revenue to $5 million, then 10, then 15, a staff of over 50. We serviced over 50,000 clients. It was really a success story. And then a few years later, and a few years ago, the company was acquired by Care.com, and it's now called Care.com HomePay. And all of those numbers I just gave you have doubled in just the past few years. And entrepreneurship was very successful for me, and it was really hard. And I would travel the journey 100 times over because it is where my best talents had the opportunity to thrive, and there's nothing better. So I'd like to close the webinar today with a story that's proof that small talents become really big things. Remember I mentioned that focus, kind of that odd focus, if you will, on the value of communication? Well, we started a company that handled payroll and taxes for household employers, families with nannies and elder care. So this is very financial, very legal, very structured, very straightforward. But we decided that we weren't just selling a payroll and tax service. We were selling being an integral part of a quality relationship that would allow for quality care for a loved one, for a child, or for a parent. And how did we do this? Communication. We built a consulting team of highly educated, highly professional, highly experienced and trained people who were ready to consult with our clients on anything they needed to strengthen and bring value to that relationship, from work agreements to overtime discussion, tax breaks, paid vacation, things that are difficult like termination. And it worked. It became our secret sauce. It became one of the core reasons for swift growth, for our industry leadership, for the quality of our service, all because we prioritized this unique talent in the way that we built the business. So let's wrap up today, and I want to leave you with your 3 to-dos. First, work on that conscious awareness of when you're using your very best talents. 2, then work on developing those best talents. It takes work. And then 3, if entrepreneurship is for you, take that list of 10 talents I gave you and start working on them as your best talents. And thanks for joining the discussion today.